G'day, Flosstube. Anna, aka Moranalis, back with a cough and another stitchy update. Trying something a little bit different this time. I thought for Maynia we'd try and do the whole vlog style thing. Not entirely sure how this is going to work. Fully expect the weeks to get chaotic during the work week. And so I would expect probably won't be a daily update. I can almost guarantee that. But at the same time, hoping that this might cut down on all the things that, oh, I forgot to tell you. I tend to realize that 2 seconds after I hit the stop button on the camera. So, without further ado, welcome to everybody. I appreciate you stopping by and saying hello and leaving a comment. For anybody that's new, the next month is going to be 90% Chatelaine. So I hope you like Chatelaines. Those things I forget, I forgot to tell you last time, and last time for me is only yesterday. I forgot to tell you I bought a new chart. One of the massive, going to take me 20 years to finish charts. I'll put a picture below for you to look at. Now, some of you will know I do mapping. That's my day job, is computerized mapping. So I've been looking for a mapping chart that I loved for a long time, intending to put it in the office. Now, this particular chart is way too large, going to take me way too long. I'll be retired 20 years before that thing's done. But having said that, that is such a cool map, guys. So that'll have to go in the one day I will do pile. I'm still in the hunt for something that's smaller and appropriately sized to put in my cubicle at the office. Either something that's explicitly mapping or maybe just more general IT humorous. But one day when I find that, I'll know what to. If you have any suggestions, leave it down in the comments. The main focus of Maynia is, of course, my mandalas. And if you remember, I had just started the Tinctorium mandala for May 2nd. And today being May 3rd, I have a day's worth of progress. I'll get you a before pic to put in there so you can see, but basically I filled in that center motif a bit more, and I'm starting to work out to the big flower petal motifs. So this board, I really don't like my new board. I'm gonna have to go find my own, get another one, the old size. So this almost reaches the outer border that frames part 1. So I expect to basically square that out and be working on filling that in mostly. It'll grow a little tiny bit, but that should be the bulk of the area I expect that we'll work on in May. So it's nice to see the framework coming together. Now, for those of you who are kitting up your own Chatelaines, word of advice: read the materials list carefully, pay attention. Don't do what I did. So I think I kitted this one out myself. And you read the materials list and it says Dinky Dye Silk Pearls and gives you about 4 colors. And I thought, great, no worries. This particular one is leftover for the Japanese moss garden, so clearly I just rated that one. But you can see it says, you know, got the number and the name, and it has the 600D. Okay, that 600D is important, guys. Don't miss those little things. I went to the shop. Oh, there's the name and number I was looking for, which is all reversed in the camera. And the number on this one is 1900D. Yeah, the reality is That's the thread I bought, how thick it is. Versus the thinner. Let me see if this shows up better on the board, guys. Can you see the difference? The bottom one is the one I should have. The top one is the one I do have. It's substantially, very substantially thicker. So I got all of about 4 stitches, cross stitches in with this, and I'm looking at it going, it is so gobby. There is no way this is right. And I'm looking at my materials list, and sure enough, that number is important. So I have nobody but myself to blame, but I have this color in the 1900D, which is simply not going to work. I'm going to have to either order it in the correct dimensions or look at a DMC replacement, which I might do. I haven't decided yet. Or I have the other 3 colors in the 1000D. So somewhere between the two. I will have a go with this 1000D before I totally write them off, but it's not right. It's closer. And I will see if I can make them work. I expect it highly depends on what the stitches you're doing are. You know, a nice satin stitch, you might be able to get away with this. Cross stitch, we shall see. So, word of advice for anybody kitting up their own, pay attention. Pay more attention than I did. It's a bit of a boner, because, you know, of all times, I can't just go out and order more now, can I? Because postage and everything's all ground to a halt. Anyway, that's it for today. I will catch up with you tomorrow. It's a public holiday, and show you what I managed to accomplish on the Tinctorium. Talk to you then. Bye. G'day, Flosstube. Just a quick little update. Maybe a public holiday here, but I have to head into the office quickly. Hopefully it won't take too long. But I wanted to show you my progress on the Tinctorium Mandala in the last 24 hours. So this is what she looks like now. And you can see I've done all the swirly things around all the flowers, petals, whatever. Acre's more metallic to go in each of these center bits, and then again through each of these flower shapes. I did make a slight stuff up. 5 of the swirls are done correctly, and 3 of them, I don't know that you're going to be able to see them. The metallic goes all the way up. There should be 1 stitch gap. The hazard of stitching in the bed in the morning and not wanting to drag out the pattern, figuring I've done this 5 times. Surely I can get it right without looking at the pattern. Yeah, so I'm going to have to fix that. But at the moment, running out of time, need to go deal with the reality first. So figure out how I'm going to fix that. I'll probably end up just pulling it out, to be honest, that little segment, attaching it, fixing it. Given that I've done 5 right, I don't really feel inclined to fudge 3 of them. And then start working in the metallic fill in here, because there's quite a bit of it to go. So be nice to have some of that metallic in. It's already shining so much, but I think that's kind of typical for Martina's designs. So short and sweet. Talk to you next time. G'day, Flosstube. No, not March. In the time warp. May 5th. Hope you're all doing well. So, been working on the Tinctorium. Got a bit of progress to show you. I filled in all the metallics on 3 of those petal shapes. Started to fill in the motifs that go through the middle. I have one major dilemma. So, that outer ring that's only present on the left and right, trying to decide which color I'm going to use. This left one is a DMC substitute. That's right, actually, never mind. This one, the lighter one, is a DMC substitute that is almost identical to the Dinky Dye Pearl in coloring that was charted. So that was my initial go at what I was going to sub in. But it's also very close to some stitches that are along the bottom, like almost indistinguishable. So then I got to thinking, well, maybe it'd look better if it was darker. Hence the reason we have this playing with the dark DMC. I'd love to try it with the DMC that's somewhere in between the two, but unfortunately I don't have any on hand and it's out of stock at our local big box store. So the two I've got are the two options I have. I put it on Instagram. Everybody on Instagram said use the dark one. Put it on the Chatelaine support group. Everybody there said use the light one. I mean, literally everybody. So that's no help at all, guys. So I feel like the safer option is to go with the light one, and that's probably what I'll do, just because if you look at the other examples of this piece that have been stitched, Martina's original design was definitely on that light side. So I'll probably rip out the light and go with the dark. But that will probably be tomorrow's decision, and for the rest of this evening I will go in and fill in some more of the other stuff and avoid that question for another day. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye. G'day, Flosstube. May 6th. I've already lost track of how many days I've been working on the Tinctorium. 5 days now? 4 days? Yeah, who knows? Didn't get a great deal done in the last 24 hours. Mr. 12-year-old has hit the runaway phase, and so being asked to show mom your homework that you did during the day is worthy of running away for an hour or whatever in the evening and just wreaking havoc with the afternoon schedule. So didn't get a great deal done, but still got a bit. So we have, you can see I still haven't made my decision on the darker versus the lighter green. Essentially, I'm just avoiding making any kind of decision till I get as much of this filled in as possible, and then I'll make my decision. So been filling in these little square motifs. They're kind of putsy. There's like half a dozen stitches in each little section of any one color, and then, you know, jump to the next section. But working our way through them. Those ones on the top haven't got quite as much, starting to add the darker colors in there. There is an awful lot of specialty stitches to go in this section, so all of these square motifs have specialty stitches to fill them in. The rest of this is all specialty stitch, what's not got that metallic treasure braid in there. That is another thing I accomplished last night. One of those flower shapes was missing its metallic infill yesterday. Yeah, so that's all specialty stitches, and then on the outside of those shapes as well is more specialty stitches. So acres of those to go in this little section. You can see here where I've started just putting in a little bit of boundary. That is roughly 10 more stitches to the edge of the part 1 piece, and that will be basically, I'll do everything within that square before then I move on to the next bit. In that 10 stitches though are like 8 bunnies and 8 hedgehogs all done over one that I am kind of dreading. So before I switch out to the next thing, I'd like to get enough of that next 10 stitches in that I can knock out some of the over ones, so that I'm not left in a position when I come back to it where I'm staring down the barrel of 16 little animals over one. before I can move on, because I imagine that will be a hard mental hurdle to get over. So, you know, even if I only get 2, 3, 4, whatever down the one side, I'll be happy with that, just so long as I can get some of them knocked out. So, try and give you a bit more of a closer up look. There is, in this gap here, I think there's satin stitches in there. Haven't really read the instructions on the specialty stuff yet. But it's funny, since I bought Hawaiian and the Tahiti mandala, this one was kind of dropping down my list of, oh yeah, it's cool, but maybe not as cool. Well, you start to stitch these things and they're all cool as, so I'm pleased to see it rocket right up the top of the want to do list, because, you know, there are a lot of investment in the materials and everything to then decide, oh, I don't really want to do it after all. So, pretty pleased with that. Hopefully I will get some better stitching tonight. However, my daughter has already disappeared off with the tablet that I've been working off of, so we'll have to find a computer or something to get my chart. All right, talk to you tomorrow. Bye. G'day, Flosstube. Thursday, May 7th. This is the end of the work week for me. I don't work on Fridays, so looking forward to a whole ton of stitching tomorrow and the weekend. But yesterday, at least, I did manage to continue a bit of work on the Tinctorium. So I've started, I think yesterday we talked about I wanted to get some of these over one animals in. So I've started filling out that last 10 stitch border so I can see where the animals are meant to go in. I had intended to fill in, at least for the section that I'm working on, all of the over 2s and then go back and put the over 1s in the gap. But I have hit a minor snag. So there's about 2 colors of floss in there to build up the background there. And the next one working out is a Gloriana Floral silk in the color Lavender Ice. It's a really nice, pretty blue-green. But I have a minor problem in that this tag says 5 yards. And the materials list says 8 meters. Now, my conversion's a bit rusty, but I'm pretty sure 5 yards is nowhere near 8 meters, and I need like most of that 8 meter skein according to the materials list. So I'm thinking I'm almost certainly short in this floral silk. I probably should have gotten 2. The $1 million question is, if I start that outer border, can I do at least that border component with the 1 skein? Or I figure if I can at least do just the border component, then if I'm running short, I can start the other components with the second skein, and it won't matter as much if the die lots aren't 100% the same. In any case, my chances of getting my hands on another one of these, I think, are not real crash hot in the short term. I will have a bit of a Google tonight. So that's a bit of a bummer. I might, I think there's one other color in that background that I'll go see whether I can put that one in instead. And then I might just have to suck up putting the over 1s in and then go back and backfill this one after I make up my mind what I'm going to do. So that's that drama. But I think other than that border, I have more or less finished a lot of these motifs. I think there's, yeah, like I'm missing the dark color in that one because there's only like 4 stitches left to put in, and I didn't want to start a whole new thread for 4 stitches yet. I figured I'd wait till I knew I was going to finish it. I might start putting in a few of these specialty stitches just to see how that's all looking with my greens, because clearly I still haven't made a decision on those greens yet. Yeah, and I could always keep filling in the rest of the border with the colors that I do have. So one of those things I will probably do tonight. Tomorrow I want to actually have a go at recharting the volcanoes in the Hawaiian mandala so that they are ready to go when I start the Hawaiian mandala. So that will probably take up some of my stitching time for tomorrow on the computer. I haven't even decided what I'm going to try and use. You know, there's umpteen different stitching programs you can get to convert photos. I haven't made any decision as to what one I'm using. I did get my daughter to go through and basically draw a line drawing of our local hill. I'm hoping that might be useful rather than doing a true photo conversion. Give suggestions of the shapes rather than, you know, this highly detailed every last bush on the hill. Don't really need that kind of detail in it. So that could be a bit of an experiment to see how we get something I like. It's a learning experience. In the meantime, I have had a little bit of stitching stash show up, or dyeing stash, a few more Rit dyes. I don't actually have any plans to dye anything in the next 5 minutes, but black and charcoal gray are permanently sold out every time I go looking, so I found them, and I bought them quick so that I can just have them in my stash, because at some point I'll want to have a go at darker colors. The other thing is I put an order in for a lot of the Rainbow Gallery threads to go with the Tahiti mandala, and I got confirmation that they are in stock with the local distributor, so hoping they might actually show up at my house within another 10 days or something. That will make them very speedy threads by the current state of affairs. Anyway, I think that's about it for today. I will catch in with you tomorrow, and hopefully I'll be able to say I've got Castle Hill all charted. See you then. G'day, Flosstube. Today is Friday, May 8th, and that means I have actually managed to record a vlog every single day this week, which I'm impressed. It also means it's been a full week that I've been working on this Tinctorium. So, without further ado, guess what I started last night? I figured I was avoiding them. It's time to get them started, because they're not done. Little tiny over one critters. So, we have 1, 2 and a half little hedgehogs, and the start of a little bunny butt down there. That's about the only thing I've worked on in the last 24 hours. They're not as bad as the koi fish. I think part of that is because these are charted in the original chart as over 1. You're not doing any kind of trying to figure out where the over 1s fit into the over 2s. It's just purely reading the chart and putting the stitch in place. It's funny, like, I don't find over 1 stitching hard. I can see what I'm doing. I don't particularly enjoy it. I think part of that is because I can't use my go-to sewing method. And also because you put in an awful lot of stitches to cover a teeny tiny little area. So there's no motivation to be had by seeing amazing progress, because all that work and you get tiny little critters. Still, they're really cute. I think there's about 2 colors of DMC left to go into the bottom 2 little hedgehogs. I had to frog a bunch of the top hedgehogs, so that will need to get replaced as well. And obviously I've only got the one color in the bunny so far. I will aim to fill in a bit more of the over ones along that side. See if we can't at least knock out that side of the pattern. At this point, I'm thinking I might try and start the Hawaiian mandala this weekend. We are going to try and go over to the island for an overnight. So that means the most logical time for me to start the Hawaiian is probably after we get back on Sunday afternoon. So it may not be much of a start before the work week hits, but that's the plan. I'm also thinking after I finish filming this, I'll see how long this video winds up being with this whole vlog thing. I have zero idea. I may essentially post a week's worth progress at a time. And then I'm thinking, obviously this week was Tinctorium. Next week's video should be mostly Hawaiian. And then at this point, I'm assuming Tahiti's not going to show up, so it's probably going to be back to Tinctorium and then back to Hawaii. So we'll make it work. And whenever Tahiti does show up, you can guarantee I'll start and I'll do a week on Tahiti, and maybe I'll do a vlog even though it's not, probably won't be Maynia anymore. But that's all right. We can have a delayed Maynia. What else can I tell you? Those little critters are mostly DMC. The dark brown is the exception. That is meant to be a Gloriana silk. I don't really see the value in using perfectly lovely silks in an over one when you don't see much of variegation or anything. So I've just subbed it for the DMC equivalent for the over one part. If that color shows up in other parts of the chart that are over 2, at that point I'll have a look at it and see whether I want to use the Gloriana or the DMC. But I think for the little tiny bits that you see in the hedgehog, I'll save my Glorianas for something else. And so far as I've noted, that's the only one thing. The other sub I will make is that bunny. Is about 2 stitches of Whisper White on each bunny to do its little cottontail. I'm not going to buy a whole card of Whisper White for about 16 stitches. So that will just be the DMC 5200 and we'll call that good. So that's where we're up to. Still have a bit more to do in these motifs to fill them out yet. There's quite a bit of kind of decorative scroll work back stitching I could do around those corners yet. Maybe I'll have a go at putting some of that in. I probably won't do any of the specialty stitches before I start the Hawaiian. But still, I'm super pleased to have at least a start on those over ones. I figure if you're sitting there dreading it, it's time to get it done. Then you're not dreading it, and it's a whole lot more fun. So that's my progress on Tahiti. I think I've more or less decided I'm going to pull that dark green out, replace it with the light green. But another one of those jobs I will try and get done before I put this away in favor of Hawaiian. So talking of the over one stuff, if you remember, and I will try and put over a photo in, I bought a world map chart, which is awesome. It is, however, massive. I think in the long dimension, it's like 1,000 stitches. It's huge. And so realistically, the only way to do that, I think, is 25, 28, something over one. I don't want to do 1,000 by 700 stitches over one full cross. So I'm thinking when I get to that piece to do it half stitch, you know, 2 threads over 1 half stitch, and hopefully that will be a little less tedious, and I should hopefully see progress faster, right, because it's half the stitches. That will be the first time I try anything in 2 over 1 sort of half stitch mode, so you know, it's good to see how it turns out and how I like it, if nothing else. I feel like, I spent the morning, as well as stitching those little things, I have been working on the charting for the replacement for the volcanoes for the Tahiti mandala. And I will insert a picture that shows you our local hill. It's called Castle Hill, that my replacement will be based off of. In the process of doing this, like I've never tried to chart anything before. I really know zero about what I'm doing. So I downloaded a few freebie sort of programs to start with. One called Blend Stitch, and one called C Stitch. C Stitch was open source, but gave very little functionality in terms of being able to edit the chart after it was converted. Really, you know, I ran it through once and wrote it off as not worth my time and effort. Blend Stitch looked much more functional, a much better piece of software, and there was an outdated version of the source code for that project. I don't know how far it was behind, but it clearly wasn't handling the Windows 10 computer. I think that project had been shelved for a number of years now, and so it didn't run very well on my computer, which was a bit of a bummer. It's one of those things where if you had the time and the inclination and a half recent thing of the source code, I'd be inclined to see whether I could modernize it and resurrect it. But the reality is I'm not likely to have the time and that much enthusiasm. So having written off both of those 2 options, I went and Win Stitch seems to be the other really popular, albeit paid version. So I downloaded the demo of that, and functionality wise, it blew C Stitch out of the water. Hard to judge on the Blend Stitch because it wasn't running right. So maybe the functionality was there and I just couldn't access it. But it did a very reasonable job for somebody who had 0 experience. You know, I kind of knew what I was after, but I didn't have any great experience getting there. So I thought it did a reasonable job of that. Unfortunately, because it's a demo version, it won't let me export to PDF, and it won't let me print what I've done. So now I have to decide if I'm going to buy the full version, or more likely I think I will just, because we're only talking like 50 stitches by 50 stitches, you know, kind of triangular shape, I might just try and take screenshots and print those and see if I can dodgy it up enough for the purposes of this project. However, if you're looking for something to play with and have a bit of extra cash floating around, I think it was like $40 US, so for the Aussies maybe 60, you know, kind of depends on the exchange rate. I was relatively impressed with what I could do with very little experience or skills or anything to go on. So check it out if you're interested in patterns and stuff. Unless you are a software developer, I wouldn't worry about the Blend Stitch and the C Stitch. I think that's it from me. I will try and plug this all into a video and get it uploaded. And I will see you next week with the final update on the Tahiti mandala and the start of the Hawaiian mandala. Okay, catch you then. Bye.